Welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are going to take a few minutes today to talk about submitting your best program proposal for Campus Home Live 2025. My name is Ryan Young, and I am currently serving as the Director of Residential Life at Temple University, and also have the honor of serving as the program committee's admin. And my colleague, Holly, is joining me today. Holly, take a moment and introduce yourself.
Great, thanks, Ryan. I'm Holly Stapleton. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at ACUHO-I, and I have the privilege of supporting the program committee during their work for Campus Home Live.
So for our time together today, we want to highlight a couple of conference milestones and dates for folks who may not be aware. Our call for programs is actually currently open, and so folks are able to start submitting those now, and we encourage you to do so. Those proposals will be available and open through January at 11:59 p.m. So plenty of time over the course of the next several weeks and during hopefully some downtime for holidays to be able to get that in. We will be notifying presenters in March 2025 whether or not their programs are accepted, and then our actual conference will take place June 28th through July 1st, 2025 in Columbus, Ohio. The registration for our conference will open in December, and so folks will have plenty of time to be notified whether or not their program was accepted or not before any of the registration deadlines that occur for that. And so during our time together today, we are going to talk a little bit about some delegate information from our Campus Home Live conference in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 2024. We're going to talk a little bit about content areas as well as target audiences. We're going to walk you through the submission and review process for our program proposals, give you a demo on the basics of submitting a program, as well as cover the different types of programs that we're going to be looking for during our call for programs.
Great. To get started, we wanted to provide a little bit of data and insight around the process. We get asked quite frequently, how many proposals do you get? How many are accepted versus submitted? All that good stuff. You can see here about a 10-year view starting in DC in 2014 to Milwaukee last year, where we had 69%. We anticipate receiving probably around the same amount this year in terms of accepted versus submitted. This is a healthy amount. It really gets us to where we need to be and to offer the level of programming that we would anticipate for Campus Home Live. So I think we'll probably hover in that 50 to 60% range. And we'll know that as we get closer and see those submissions come in. We also get a lot of questions around, who's going to be in the room. This stays pretty standard from year to year. You can see here that the mass numbers kind of lean into the master's degree, almost 70% there, as well as close to 20% doctoral degree. And then we have some others with some more specialized areas, as well as representation from folks with some college, 2-year high school, and certainly 4-year degree. As you think about regions, there are a couple things that typically impact the way this shakes out from year to year. One is geography. So we'll be in Columbus, Ohio. So we anticipate that we'll have a strong showing from ACUHO. We would also anticipate our larger regions to have a strong presence. CHO is typically our biggest region year to year in attendance, et cetera. So again, geography plus size of region typically dictates this, and this stays pretty standard from year to year. Minus geography, which fluctuates. So target topics of interest for the association in 25. This has actually been true for a couple years now, that we really look at the future of the profession, 8 imperative areas. This initiative has been in place for several years. It informs our strategic plan. It informs everything we do. You can see there the 8 imperative areas that are very much a part of our vernacular at ACUHO-I at this point, plus 3 additional areas that we believe encompasses the full scope of the field interest areas. So the additional ones are corporate and affiliate partnerships. So those partnerships that are core to getting the work done, leadership and engagement, and residence education. When you're creating your proposal, you will have the ability to select the area that best categorizes your program. And we do look at those as we accept programs to make sure that we're attending to the broad swath of interest across the field.
So one of the other components that we encourage folks to consider is the ACUHO-I core curriculum. So ACUHO-I has our body of knowledge and core competencies that were established in 2012. These are really an opportunity to identify at its core the information that we believe that campus housing professionals need to know in order to do their job and to be experts in our field. And so we utilize the core curriculum to kind of help identify the content areas within our program sessions as well. All of the content areas kind of roll up into these core competencies. So what Holly just identified with the topic areas also match these core content areas. You'll see that the 12 main core competencies are highlighted in blue, that the subdomains for those areas are in black, as well as the core content areas are in green. So again, those core competencies are really things that are unique to housing and residence life that we want folks to know and be experienced with in our field, while the green ones are a little bit more broad and apply more generally to other fields, but are also important to the work that we do. We highly encourage you to spend a little bit of time diving into these areas and learning more about them, and you can do so by visiting the website that is on the slide there. There's more in-depth information about each of those areas and kind of describing what they have within them for how you might connect your program proposal to those core content areas. Additionally, we want to share with folks that we ask you to consider what your target audience is going to be for your content area. We've identified these groupings for folks to be able to navigate and decide what makes the most sense for the content that you are hoping to bring to the conference. These help folks to identify also which programs might be appropriate for them to attend, as we do include these in our program guide on our app once we get to the actual event at the end of June. And so you can highlight whether the session might be for new professionals or might be more targeted for our senior housing officers or folks who are much more experienced in the field or our aspiring SHOs. These are not restrictive, meaning that just because you identify something, your content area as a session for mid-level professionals, a new professional may choose to join your session to get a little bit more information or to kind of see what the next level of folks are thinking or are working on. So really, this is just a guide to kind of help folks understand what it is to expect when they walk in the room, who might also be there, and kind of who the session presenters are looking at as their main audience for that session.
Great. Another area where you will be asked to make a selection is the domain within the Student Affairs Education Certification. We will be offering CE credits this year as we did last year. And those who submit a CFP are going to be asked to select the domain associated with their program. If your program is selected, it will be vetted for CE credit. We are asking you to select the general bucket that you believe your session would fit into, but at the end of the day, we will have someone evaluate the session and ensure that that's where it would fit. Nothing else that you need to do, but you'll want to look at the program submission guide that provides some explanation on what these buckets are so that you can select the one that you think best fits. Again, if your program is selected, you will be notified if you're CE or if your program is CE eligible. And again, not much you'll need to do, but you will need to accept that designation. And there will be some instructions ahead of your session. So we really look forward to providing CE credit in 25, similar to 24.
So now we want to talk a little bit about the actual submission and review process, so you're familiar as you go into that. All of our sessions are reviewed by a group of volunteers from our membership. And so the program committee divides folks up, and we take on and read every program submission that comes in throughout this process. A couple of the highlights in terms of our scoring process, we do use a 1 to 5 scale, and kind of these highlight areas that our program reviewers are looking for. And so we definitely want to ensure that proposals are high quality and organized, and provide clarity. We understand what you are hoping to bring to the conference through your content session, and being able to clearly kind of understand and have a sense of all of that information that you're wanting to share. We also want to make sure that as we talked about those core competencies, that it fits with the one that you've identified, and making sure that those do match. So you're talking about a session related to residence education, and the area that you're speaking about fits mostly within that area. We understand there may be overlaps with different areas of competency as well. Um, Again, kind of being cohesive and that the description fits together with the proposal throughout is really important. And that we are able to see through your description of the proposal, as well as through those learning outcomes, that they are clear and achievable, and that the session that you've proposed matches with those things. So the brief description, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, matches with the learning outcomes, which match with the full outline that you have, where you're talking about how you're going to those outcomes. We also want to ensure that you have an engaging format. So we don't want folks just to sit in a room. We want to ensure that there are ways to engage in conversation or activity during your session, to really ensure that folks are able to utilize, and start figuring out how that information might really connect to their work on their home campuses. As we highlighted before, we want to make sure the content is appropriate for your target audience that you've identified. So ensuring that it is kind of right on track for whether you're wanting to share with new professionals, or for senior housing officers, or for maybe those mid-level folks in there. As we've kind of highlighted a few times, we want to make sure that your content area is not just focused on an issue that is only on your campus or cannot be translated elsewhere. We really want to ensure that this is something that our members can take back to their own campus and adapt, and look to how your successes might be able to translate to their own campus for success. We also want to ensure that there is application by residence life and housing practitioner. So again, that really does emphasize the importance of being able to translate the content that you're sharing across a wide variety of institutions, regions, etc., to be able to um, uh, be effective for our members. Overall, again, that we want to ensure that it is a well-developed outline, as well as includes multiple perspectives. So being able to share data and resources, and citing things in your proposal is also helpful, in looking at those, to ensure that you are providing us with how you are incorporating different voices and perspectives in your session for us. So we want to take a little bit of time and share some samples of what we're talking about and what we would like to see in your program proposals. First is the description. And so as you can see here, this description is a couple sentences about what the session is going to be. And so this really tells the reviewers what to anticipate for the rest of your proposal. And really, this will also be used to draw attendees to your program, as this will be published in our conference guide, the program app, to be able to make sure that folks know what they're doing. Along with that, we will highlight the target audience, so that can again be another tool that folks can use to determine if they want to attend your program, should it be accepted, and be presented in Columbus. So take a couple minutes, really think about how you are highlighting and encouraging folks to come with you, to come to your session, excuse me, as well as ensuring that this description is accurate to what folks can anticipate by attending your session. Next is the learning objectives. So this is really important as well. The reviewers do take a look at these learning objectives and determine whether or not these help us give us an understanding of what you want the participants to leave with. So it's really important that these are fleshed out and thorough and that they are achievable. We want to make sure that you're highlighting these and then the rest of your outline is able to connect to these. So if you're talking about something in your learning objectives, we should be able to see where that content is within the outline that you're going to share once you have given these learning objectives. And so we do ask folks to come up with 3 of those, put them, and again, it kind of walks you through in that in the proposal form, and Holly will walk you through some of those in a little bit, but that's next section after the description. Then we move into your actual outline. So the outline is more of the fleshed out version. This can take a variety of different formats, and it can be in an outline form, it can be more bulleted, but what we're really looking for is this is where you're going to share with us the main content of your presentation. This is where you're going to share some of those data points, some of the resources, some of the highlights that you're doing, and really walk us through the actual time that we're going to be with you during the presentation should you be selected. One of the components that we do ask folks to do is that regardless of the format that you have, each of the sections should have a timestamp or an approximate amount of time that you're going to spend on each area. So as you can see in this outline, the introduction, there's a highlight of 2 minutes, learning objectives, 1 minute. And then it starts getting into the content, and it again, this portion says 5 minutes. All of that information is just a little brief description of what will happen during that 5 minutes. Those timestamps are really important because it helps us to ensure that you, as the presenters, recognize how long your session is going to be, how much time you want to spend on each of those content areas, to fit within the specific time restrictions that we have for our educational sessions. As you continue your outline, we do encourage you to kind of highlight the categories or the content that you are working with. And so in this section, kind of highlighting where residence education, recruitment and retention are the ways that we will do this. As Holly mentioned earlier, while we have a new session, we do encourage everyone to use another system such as Word to kind of uh, create your outline, your proposal before you copy and paste into the actual session. And so it may take a little bit of additional time to format that, but again, kind of having it outside and allows you in another document allows you to kind of work on that before putting it in and ensuring that you've got everything there. The last kind of section of the outline or sample of it, we want to make sure that you are ensuring that what you are proposing is feasible. So making sure that the time that you have allotted for each of the section is reasonable. We want to ensure folks aren't saying that something is going to take 2 minutes and really that's going to be a 10-minute conversation. And so be able to have an understanding of what is realistic in sharing material for you. We also really encourage you to consider at the end a conclusion. And so making sure you have left time to address reflecting on the learning outcomes, opening the floor for discussion or questions, just wrapping up and going. So we do want you to think about that in terms of your outline as well. Overall, we want to ensure that your outline includes samples of how you are going to engage your audience. We want to make sure you have those timestamps on there and you hit each of the learning outcomes that you have left in a understandable order, in an organized fashion, and are clear and concise throughout the proposal that we have for you or that you have submitted for us. Additionally, we want to highlight some things to keep in mind in terms of a rationale for your program. We do want you to consider whether the topic is something that is of great importance right now. Is this something that is needed? We see a variety of different areas that are important to our work, kind of ebb and flow throughout the time. And so making sure that those connections are there. Does the title match the description? Does it draw people in? Is it interesting? Is something that can be helpful as well? Again, another highlight of not making your proposal to be so campus specific that we're not able to have participants draw connections and translate that to their own campuses. Again, the outline is detailed, gives us a good idea of the content of the session, those learning outcomes, and how our participants will actually be able to achieve those outcomes during the time with you. And that it meets all of our criteria, and that in general that it is well thought out, thorough, and we have all of the pieces that we need to understand the program proposal that you've submitted, which is really what we are looking for when we select those programs to be presented during the conference in June.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Um, really quickly, we're going to jump into a demo of the basics of submitting a proposal. For those of you who have submitted in past years, you'll find this to be quite different. Sessionize is very intuitive, as Ryan said. We think that it's efficient. It provides a good level of explanation so that you can move through it quickly. In terms of where to find the link to our Sessionize dashboard for 2025 Campus Home Live, I've included the direct URL there. This URL is also available on the call for proposals subpage of our CHL webpage, and I provided that URL as well. Both things get you to the same place. The only benefit, well, there's many benefits, but one of the benefits of going to the call for proposals page is there's some other resources there that you may want to leverage to prepare for submitting your session. Some other things to kind of know about the proposal. This system actually allows you to give access to other presenters directly in the system. There's an area where you're going to indicate whether you have other presenters and provide their information. There's another area where you'll be able to provide their email address so that if you want them to actually go into your proposal and provide edits or a section of the information or whatever you'd want, they can do that with that provision of email addresses. Something also kind of to keep in mind about drafts is that the system saves your progress as you go. So you don't have to actually submit or have a button. You're able to return as well. So that is helpful. But we do recommend strongly that you are creating your session in a separate Word document so that you have everything where you need it to be. You don't lose anything if you lose power, and can go ahead and kind of copy and paste those edited pieces into the proposal and you're ready to go. So that's our recommendation for that as well. With that, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And whoops. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the Sessionize form here and reshare. So hopefully you're seeing that. Are we seeing the right page, Ryan? Yeah. Okay, cool. So you can see that this is the Sessionize form that you will see after you create your login. You can see that there's a lot of information here about deadlines, which is super important on the right pane and at the top on the banner. Ryan went through all kind of the different segments of the proposal, title, description, learning objectives, the type of session. He'll talk about that in a moment, the outline. There's some questions here about target audience. That's a select all that applies, so there can be more than one here as well. Topic areas, core competencies, student affairs certification area. Any additional notes that you want to provide, that is not required, but there might be something that you want to note there. And then you go in here and you put in your information about you, right? So you can see here my name is there based on what my profile is. I'm actually logged in. We ask for you to provide your college, university, or organization here, as well as a short bio of 250 words or less, which will enable us to pull things over to the app fairly quickly. We do ask for a speaker photo. That is not required, but that's another thing that we can gather so that we can add that to the app if you decide to do that. Information about your co-speakers, as well as that section where you're able to enter a co-speaker email address, so that those folks can get automatic access to the proposal and jump right in. You agree, and then you submit. So fairly straightforward. You can see all of it at once. There's not kind of restrictions on you have to finish these to go to the next. You can see everything at one time. So we think this will be a really efficient way for folks to submit on this particular year. So I will stop sharing here. And then I will hopefully reshare. And Ryan, hopefully you see the program type slide.
Thank you, Holly. So there are a couple different program types that we ask our membership to consider presenting during the conference. First is a pre-conference session. This is a little bit longer of a session, usually about a half day, or about 180 minutes or so. This is kind of an extended session that allows folks to dig deeper into a topic, and hopefully also provide for greater interactivity with the presenters or each other, to kind of be more of a workshop format, of looking at something. We've had a variety of different examples that target whether different types of schools or opportunities for folks to talk about different levels of position, but also things such as how to better prepare for writing for publication or implementing a large scale initiative, etc. These are really opportunities to kind of spend a dedicated chunk of time together looking over something. So it's a great opportunity for that. Interest sessions are what the vast majority of the program proposals will be submitted for. These are your general kind of presenting of content and area with a couple of activities to engage folks in as well. These are 50 minutes. And so we do, again, ask folks to consider that timing in your outline to be able to fit that 50 minutes. So that includes introductions, review of your content, the actual activities you're doing, as well as preparing for any wrap-ups, questions, etc. at the end of that time together. The other two portions or session types are also really valuable to us. A round table is definitely more of a facilitated discussion. That is usually on a specific topic or around a specific population, whether that's students or type of staff position. These are usually not sessions that come with content or kind of multimedia presentation. They're really truly just more of an opportunity for folks to kind of gather. If you're proposing a roundtable, we do encourage you to include kind of some of the list of questions that you will use to help guide the conversation or the direction of the conversation, and anything that you might have with that. We recognize roundtables often have content that is generated by the participants who are there, but we do find that it's helpful to understand who is moderating that roundtable, to kind of understand how they will help progress that conversation and discussion and get things started as well. The other opportunity is a panel. A panel is a set of folks who are going to speak on a certain topic or experience, usually moderated by one of those individuals or someone else. The panelists will often give a little brief description of who they are, how they're related to the specific conversation that the session is intended to cover. And then we'll either have some set questions to kick off the panel session for participants to kind of hear the perspectives from those panel members. And then we'll open it up to the participants to be able to ask questions as well. We do ask folks to share who those panelists are going to be in their program proposal, so that way the reviewers know who will be participating in that. And as Holly shared in the sample, there's places where you are able to folks as co-presenters, so that way we can list those as well. So those are the different session types that we're going to be looking for during our review, and hopefully the content area that you have will fit into one of those, and that's something we're looking for, as well as that what you're presenting matches to the session type that you're sharing with us. So one of the last components that we want to talk about is just some general tips and tricks that we have for you as our committee starts to review program proposals. This is some of the things that we think will help. Things that are unique stick out to us and get us excited. And we're like, this is definitely something our membership wants to see. And so thinking about how you can put that unique spin on your presentation will help with that. Definitely ensuring that your content is engaging and not just a pure lecture format is really important as well. We definitely want folks to be able to come into a session and have an opportunity to learn from others, but also engage with that content, talk with others, and really be able to start processing how they might be able to take that back to their campus. As we've said a couple times, making sure that your outline is well developed and clear and concise and has all of the information connected to your learning outcomes, connected to the content areas to make sure that we are able to see that very easily. As we kind of highlighted as well, making sure that there's multiple perspectives. So how, even if it is something or an initiative from your campus, are you able to draw connections on how participants might be able to take that back to their own campus, their own work, instead of just highlighting something that worked really well for you? Providing data and outcomes is really important. So citing those components will be really helpful in backing up any research that you have shared or regarding the topic or content is also really important. We want you to highlight timely issues and best practices. So we recognize there's a lot of things that happen in our field and that some of those kind of highlights ebb and flow from year to year. But what are the things that you're seeing on your campus that you believe that others need to work and address as well? Those are some of the things that we're looking for in our program proposals. Are they relevant to what we are seeing as a field right now? And as we've highlighted a couple times, we encourage you, although our new sessionized system is fairly intuitive, we do encourage you to kind of write out your proposal in a Word document, make sure you've got everything, and then go in and copy and paste it into the form before you submit it. And Holly mentioned earlier, one of the best resources is our program proposal assistance guide, which is found on our website under the call for proposals section. This really will walk you through all of the steps that you need to have in order to submit a great program proposal and be selected by our reviewer committee. And so with that, we are going to kind of wrap up our time together with you today. Holly and I are definitely open to answering any questions that you may have, and our contact information is there on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to either of us. Happy to help walk you through anything you have. Holly, anything else to add before we wrap up?
No, thanks so much, Ryan, and we look forward to seeing your proposals. Thank you.